The January 6th Select Committee has worked for more than a year to investigate the attack on the Capitol, and next week, we will know what is in their final report. They had 9 public hearings, interviewed 1,000 witnesses, and gathered countless documents, all in an effort to get to the bottom of how we landed here, with a mob of Trump supporters trying to pull off a coup that put lawmakers' lives in jeopardy, and in hopes of preventing it from happening again. That's what this committee's work is doing. Here's what's going to happen. The January 6th panel is set to conclude its business in a public meeting on Monday afternoon. They'll vote on their report and on whether to make criminal referrals that could target allies of former President Donald Trump and even Trump himself. NBC News reports that while a final decision on referrals against the former president has not been made yet, the committee is considering 3 charges. Here they are: insurrection, obstructing an official proceeding of Congress, and conspiracy. These potential referrals would not be a mandate for the Justice Department to charge Donald Trump with the crime. It would not be a mandate. It's important to say that because Congress doesn't have that power. Now, critics in the Republican Party say the committee's efforts are political, but the January 6th committee is making it plain. The public needs to know what really happened, and there must be accountability for the attack on our democracy, because that threat is still very real and it's ongoing. Joining me now to discuss is Democratic Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California. Welcome to you, Congresswoman. Let's start with the January 6th committee. Based on everything that you've seen from the 9 hearings thus far, would you vote in favor of a criminal referral against former President Trump?
Simone, I'm very happy to be with you. And let me just say, I am convinced that the committee is going to make the correct referral. I am the lead plaintiff in an NAACP case against Donald Trump and the Proud Boys and others who attempted to overthrow our government. And in fact, we had a hearing a couple of weeks ago. We're using every tool that we have at our disposal to make sure that Donald Trump and his gang, those who attempted to topple our democracy and to kill people and people died as a result of that, we have to hold them accountable. And in our NAACP lawsuit, we're saying very clearly that there is no immunity. He cannot claim immunity. And so I'm confident that the January 6th committee is going to move forward based on the facts and based on what they know. I'm not on the committee, but I certainly know a lot of the details. I was sitting on the floor January 6th and had to evacuate. It was a very harrowing experience. And so they're going to do the right thing. And at the same time, we're going to move forward with our lawsuit.
So now that the committee is wrapping up and the report is set to be released, I'm wondering, what is the conversation on Capitol Hill, particularly amongst the members?
Well, the conversation is we have to hold Donald Trump and all of those who fomented this violent attempted overthrow of our government and tried to thwart the peaceful transfer of power accountable. No one is above the law. And so as Democrats, and this was a bipartisan committee, but everyone knows, we saw it, we witnessed it, the public saw what took place. And so the fact gathering has been extremely important. And the hearings led by Chairman Benny Thompson have been very, very clear in terms of being factual, interviewing witnesses. And so there's I can't understand how anyone could say that this was political when, in fact, before the world's eyes, we saw these gangs, these insurrectionists attempting to destroy our democracy. And
we literally saw it unfold on national television. I mean, agreed. So, Congresswoman, this is something we will absolutely be watching, and I will be in touch with you because I'm always interested in your thoughts, particularly as that report comes out this week. I want to move to President Biden's recent address this week at the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit. The president announced significant new support for African nations, and I want to play what he had to say for our audience right now.
Africa belongs to the table in every room, where global challenges are being discussed. We plan to commit $55 billion in Africa to invest in Africa's people, Africa's infrastructure, Africa's agriculture, Africa's health system, Africa's security, and more.
The president also noted, Congresswoman, that he would visit sub-Saharan Africa next year. The first president to do so in about 10 years. Last president to go was Obama. Can you just lay out for our viewers why the United States' interest to strengthen ties with African nations is so important, especially in relation to China and Russia, who have really been investing heavily in the continent?
Certainly, Simone. I was very pleased that the president made this announcement. You know, Donald Trump, of course, really severed our ties with the continent, calling it disparaging names like S-hole countries. And I chair the subcommittee that funds a large portion of this $50 billion. And let me just mention this in the context of an African-American lens. We have an African-American who's our great UN ambassador, Linda Thomas Greenfield. We have the chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, an African-American, Gregory Meeks, chair of the Homeland Security Committee, Benny Thompson. Myself, I chair the Appropriations Committee that really funds all of these efforts. And so we have a lot of makeup to do. We have to repair the damage. And I'm so pleased that the president made this announcement. But, you know, members of the Black Caucus and many others have been working on increasing investments for many, many years. And since I've been chairing the subcommittee, I have increased the investments on the, not enough though, but on the continent of Africa and into the Caribbean. So this was a major development. But I'm also glad that he spoke about the original sin of America in terms of slavery, which really gives us a clear message in terms of why we must move forward to repair the damage through H.R. 40 and reparations. And so African Americans, we've been working many, many years to connect African Americans with the issues on the African continent so that there's a constituency for Africa. And I think that's happening, and it's very exciting.
And so exciting indeed. Congresswoman Barbara Lee, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And I want to bring in Congressman Mondaire Jones of New York. Congressman, thank you for being here with me today. Let's start with January 6th committee. You are a member of Congress, but you're also an attorney, okay? So from your perspective, do you think that the committee has done the work needed to prove that Donald Trump or his allies are guilty of the charges that they are reportedly considering? Insurrection, conspiracy, and obstructing an official proceeding of Congress.
You know, this is one of those interesting situations where the crime literally played out before our very eyes.
We saw it.
And so while we do have a judicial system that requires that these crimes be proven in a court of law, as a witness to the event, you know, as someone who was on the House floor along with Barbara Lee, because we're both members of House leadership and we were watching this all go down in real time, I can tell you that these crimes actually took place. I think the January 6th committee has been enormously effective in a bipartisan way about interviewing, as you mentioned, thousands of witnesses and revealing for the American people everything that went down, to the point where even the Justice Department, I think, is taking some cues and is using information uncovered by the January 6th committee, which is not something that you would typically see. It would typically be the reverse, right? That the Justice Department would have certain information that we would sort of lean on as members of the public.
So, look, I think that no secret, okay? I think Donald Trump is a danger to our democracy, and I was literally at the Democratic National Committee on January 6th with the then Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. We had to be evacuated for a bomb threat. So I think that he has committed crimes, not to mention the Mar-a-Lago documents. And if anybody else, if it were anyone else, just for the documents, he would be in jail already.
Oh, yeah.
That being said, the Justice Department may not charge Donald Trump. We don't know what is going to happen. And so why, in your words, is the January 6th committee report important, even sans charges of the former president?
I appreciate this point, because I think a lot of folks may be putting too much stock in this. We know that it is largely of symbolic importance, right? Ultimately, the Justice Department can completely ignore the referrals from the January 6th committee. But it is still important because we know that the committee has credibility. It's done great work in the minds of the public. It's got great members on it. The staff should be commended as well for the important work that they're going to do, as will be laid out in this report later this week. And I think that it's important for Congress, as an independent branch of government, of which I'm a member, to really do its job in educating the public about its own findings on this matter. And so I think, you know, history will record what happened here. And I think because it's so obvious that these crimes were committed, that it will be on the Justice Department to decide what it wants its legacy to be. But the January 6th committee coming to this conclusion is really enough for all intents and purposes in terms of establishing in public opinion
what will the legacy of the Justice Department be? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Before I let you go, you were instrumental in getting the Respect for Marriage Act passed that the president signed earlier this week. You're leaving Congress in January. You were a fatality of redistricting.
Yeah.
What is next for Mondaire Jones?
Well, I'm really excited to continue doing the work that I've started. The thing that matters most to me is making sure that we still have a multiracial democracy in this country. I've been doing that in terms of the voting rights and other democracy reform legislation that I've been pushing in Congress, and frankly, being a thought leader on the Supreme Court in particular, where even members of my party have not shown enough leadership on that subject.
Wow.
And so I can hope to continue to work, outside of Congress on these issues. I am being appointed to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights.
Oh, wow.
I'm really excited about that. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, Mondaire Jones, I'm sure this is not the last we will see of you, sir. And there's still a lot of work Congress has to do, so I'm sure we'll be chatting soon.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Congressman Mondaire Jones, appreciate your time.
Thank you.